Lindsey Graham, Republican senator, joins the big Republican field and announced candidate for president now in a relatively short speech, not very specific, but the twin themes of national security and honesty on budget reforms. Did not talk in any tangible way about two issues that have created some controversy for him with the Republican Party: immigration and climate change. But stylistically, exactly what you'd expect from Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, speaking his heart, seeming very sincere. Did not do a lot of biographical talk either, but jokingly referred to the fact that many of those people in that crowd, like a lot of other people in the political world, would have been a little shocked to hear the notion of President Lindsey Graham, those words being spoken, or the idea of him running. He made a kind of joking allusion to that at the beginning. It is interesting to think about, we often talk, Mark, about what people ask us why someone is running. And we always generally think that people do not have ulterior motives. They run because they think they would be a good commander-in-chief, and that's why they get in this race. Do you think that's the case with Lindsey Graham? Do you think that he believes there's a path for him to be the Republican nominee?
I think he looks at this big field with no clear front runner and with an absence of, relative absence of strong national security leadership and experience, and says to himself, why not me, 60 years, almost 60-year-old senator with a lot of national security experience, served in the Air Force at a time when Republican voters, all the campaigns find this in their research, are looking for somebody with ideas on national security.
Well, and certainly as we saw last week, this issue of foreign policy very much heating up in the Republican Party. There are big divisions, big schisms within the party. Lindsey Graham occupies a very clear position of muscular foreign policy, about pro-intervention, largely speaking, what most people think of as the neocon position. And Rand Paul, right now, getting a lot of attention for a dramatically polar opposite set of views. No doubt Lindsey Graham wants to serve as a counterbalance, I think, to Rand Paul. Not that's why he's running, but he thinks it's important that someone be there to counter the isolationist, as he would say it, the isolationist tendencies that are being evinced by Rand Paul and others in his party.
If the Republican Party decides they're looking for an experienced Washington hand, at this point, Lindsey Graham is their man, because the other senators in the race are all people who have just gotten to the Senate. They're in their first term. Graham is in his third term. And while there are some people at the gubernatorial level, former and current governors, Graham has the experience. John Kasich of Ohio used to serve in the Congress, longtime chairman of the Budget Committee. So he's arguing he's got both the Washington experience and the outside experience. But today, Graham is the only experienced person at the center of the debates in Washington.
Yes, and certainly that is he made that point very vividly just now on the question of foreign policy. The point about experience and the point about foreign policy experience and national security experience in particular. Took a little jab, a friendly jab at his old friend, and she is an old friend, Hillary Clinton, where he said, I have more foreign policy experience than anyone in this race, including Hillary Clinton. Again, one of these questions that gets to what the Republican Party wants this time around is how different this race is compared to past Republican nomination fights. Is the party looking for experience, or does it feel at this point, especially against Hillary Clinton, that it needs someone who looks like the future, looks like tomorrow's candidate rather than yesterday's?
It's a little bit of an inherent tension in the party. They want someone who's strong on national security. They think that's the most important issue, and yet they also want a new face, someone from outside Washington, someone who does represent a new generation. And those things aren't impossible to reconcile, because if you're going to have broad national security experience, by definition, you'd have been at the game for quite some time, which Graham has. And I thought when he made that case, the most foreign policy experience, that was probably the strongest moment of the speech, because it does differentiate his product. And this is a crowded market with lots of people selling themselves, and Graham has one thing to sell above all else, which is that experience.